traders all shout. There's one man we're watching, his moves full of clout. Yeah. Some call him evil, some call him foul, but I just smile and call him motherfucking Daddy Powell. Will Jerome Powell nuke the market again? With a flick of his wrist, fortune's gone in the wind. Wall Street's a jungle, lions on the prowl, but the king of the jungle is old Daddy Powell. Oh, Daddy Powell, oh, Daddy Powell. Come on. Every single time it's like a fucking roller coaster ride. Hold tight. It's gonna be a crazy week, so buckle up, right? Let's go. Oh, Daddy Powell, don't bring me down. Nah, nah. The numbers are flying, red ink and green. For some it's a nightmare, for others a dream. Dream on! Lesions are crying, theories disavow, all bending the knee to mighty Daddy Powell. Get low! Oh, Daddy Powell, oh, Daddy Powell. Say his name every single time, it's like a fucking roller coaster ride. It's gonna be a crazy week, so hold on tight. Oh, Daddy Powell, don't bring me down. No!
Good morning, my little egg McMuffins. It is a beautiful Tuesday, July the 1st. Brand new month, brand new quarter, brand new you. Maybe this is the time that we get the degeneracy out of our system and finally stick to the trading plans that we know we should be sticking to, you know? Maybe this is our time to shine. Or, of course, maybe it's not. On the other hand, maybe we continue with the fun that we normally have of just being absolute degenerates and seeing how it goes. You know, we might be able to like just completely crush it that way. I don't know. You guys tell me. You tell me what's best to do from here. Folks, I appreciate you joining me so early today. I very, very, very much appreciate it because today isn't just a normal Tuesday, July the 1st, kicking off a new month and a new quarter. We get Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell kicking us off in about 25 minutes. He's at some fancy schmancy thing, I believe, over there in Europe. So he's going to have some sort of speech, and it's going to be interesting because just yesterday, we all saw the handwritten note from the president of the United States, basically calling him dumb and that he's too late and he should be cutting interest rates. So this is going to be an interesting one. We have some high-level economic, political drama, but of course it doesn't stop there. I feel like this show is very rapidly becoming the same drama as like The Bachelor, but on the highest stakes field ever, the highest stakes stage ever, because not only do we have drama with Jerome Powell and President Trump, but we also have drama with President Trump and once again with Elon Musk. Tesla has not been going well. If you've been paying attention to Tesla, you know that even though the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 are hitting brand new all-time highs, amazing, you're also going to then realize that Tesla hasn't. In fact, it's been going down. And now, right now, in pre-market trading, actually, let me show you guys how bad this has gotten. pre-market trading, it's lost an additional 5.7%. Tesla is trading below $300. It is getting destroyed. And we're going to be covering why, but in this one's a little bit more humorous. Well, it's sad, especially if you're bullish on Tesla in the short term. But while we were all fast asleep, apparently Trump had a good idea to look into all these EV subsidies and all these tax credits that Tesla's getting as a company. And basically, when that was announced, the market was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on right now? So obviously, we're going to be looking into a little bit of that, but there's drama there. There's a little bit of drama in the overall market this morning. You can see a bit of a hit in the SPY and the Qs, but Tesla, we are on crater watch. We are on plummet watch. We are on crash watch because Tesla, not only in the pre-market, but I mean, just look at the daily. We had this beautiful pump on Monday, June the 23rd, and ever since then, we're just breaking down and down and down, a succession of lower highs and lower lows, and now we're gapping down even further. This thing is just getting smashed, absolutely smashed, making me a bit sad. But there obviously is still other amazing opportunities. It's not like the whole market's looking like this right now, but that's going to be part of it. Got to prep you guys up there, and then most likely today we're going to be getting some updates related to what in the world going on with the trade war. We're getting some positive stuff related to the whole Eurozone situation. It seems like some steps are being made, but it is coming into question of, are we going to have these deals struck and announced before the self-imposed deadline of July 9th? But what's happening before July 9th is the self-imposed deadline of July 4th for the big, beautiful bill, and the time is a ticking. As I've alluded to multiple times, here we are on July 1st, and they were apparently a deep overnight session to vote on this, so really, it's just drama across the board. We have to get into the political drama, the big, beautiful bill, the trade war, what's going on with the Fed, and then we have even the drama related to individual companies as well. So drama, but on the highest stakes stage. We're talking about the entire U.S. government, the entire U.S. stock system. So, hey, if you're a drama fan, this is probably going to be the day for you. Stock futures fall to kick off the second half of 2025. They are falling in pre-market trading right here, 5-minute, 10-minute, 30-minute bearish. You can see that on the NASDAQ as well. But I want to be very clear. Actually, I should probably redraw this. I want to be clear that the 4-hour is still holding, and I should also be clear that when we spiked at the end of the day here, that was an all-time high. So technically, are we down in pre-market trading? Yes, we are down in pre-market trading, but we're also down relative to literal new record highs. So I just kind of want to be clear where we are in the grand scheme of things. Republicans' effort to pass the mega bill stretches into a new day. Senate continues marathon of votes as GOP works to pass Trump's tax and spending package by this Friday, July 4th. Senate pulls an all-nighter on Trump tax bill with GOP divided. I'm honestly surprised that these geriatrics even have the capability of pulling an all-nighter anymore. I find it fascinating, but I guess they just slap on their Depends, pop a Viagra, and call it a day. But I'm actually really, really surprised these geriatrics, I would have very much bet that they couldn't pull it off. But anyway, this is going to be some of the hot political news of the day.
Tyler, how likely does it look done that the senators can get this vote through in the early hours of this morning?
Yeah, hey, Danny, good morning. Well, they would certainly like to because they've been there since 9 a.m. Eastern yesterday. But the thing is, Senate Majority Leader John Thune at the moment still does not have the votes. And we're still watching closely the same 8 Republican holdouts that we've been discussing at this point for weeks. And the issue is that we broadly do agree about the core tenets of this bill, particularly when it comes to the tax cuts. But there are deep divisions when it comes to the spending cuts. And that really is dividing Republicans at the moment as they try to find a way to push this forward. We should also say that our reporting indicates President Trump is starting to get heavily involved in the negotiations. An administration official does tell us that he has been in constant contact with lawmakers on the Hill. I can say that they have gotten some work done overnight. There were 2 key provisions that we were closely watching. Both of them failed or were stripped out of the bill. One of them would have lifted taxes on the wealthy and would have instead used that money for a rural hospital fund. That was seen as a way to get some moderates on board. That provision failed. And another stripped a provision that would have prevented U.S. states from regulating artificial intelligence. We were watching that because that was actually a priority for the tech sector, and they're likely disappointed with the outcome there. Danny, two things to keep your eyes on going forward.
Yeah,
There's
that
one
idea of
provision
no
that could
AI
curb
regulation is a
Medicaid
little
even
suspect.
further by rolling back the expansion under the Affordable Care Act. That could get some fiscal hawks on board. It's likely not going to pass, according to our analysis at this moment. But the second one, this one really could be the pivotal one that could shape this entire morning. It is an amendment that would ease some of the rolling back of those clean energy tax credits when it comes to wind and solar in particular, giving a little bit more of a lenient timeline when it comes to the phase out. That could ultimately be enough to get some of these moderates on board, because at the moment, Danny, Senate Majority Leader John Thune has already lost 2 votes. He can only afford to lose 1 more.
Ruh-roh, Raggy. Quick question on this before we go on to the very next thing. For my hardcore Trump supporters in here, there's a very good chance that part of what you found to be appealing of him was this promise to cut wasteful government spending and to tackle government spending in a general sense. That was like obviously a big aspect of his campaign, a big campaign promise, if you will. My question to the people who identify as big Trump supporters, what's your current vibes here on the fact that his big beautiful bill will massively increase spending? It feels like it exclusively with respect to spending, Trump is very much going the opposite way of why a lot of people picked him and really a lot of his campaign promises. I wanted to get the vibes from the community on that one, just because, I don't know, like, are you just fine with it? And you're like, yeah, whatever. I wanted less government spending, and the fact that he's going to massively increase it, like, you just don't care? Or are you going the other way? Vibes are down, bruh. Not stoked. He should trash the bill. Angry. Look, dummies, don't regulate until I can exploit for money first, then regulate the poorest. Tom from MySpace, always dropping words of wisdom here. BBB is America's credit rating. Only good thing is the tax cuts. Nothing stops this train. They're going to spend whether we want them to or not, so buy Bitcoin. Feels like Trump is another politician, even though I love him. Should stop donating weapons to other countries and sending billions abroad. Trash the bill. Yeah, whatever. Less useless spending. I trust Trump to get the best he can. Don't trust all the media. Well, this isn't media. This is, can you read? Like, you can read what they're suggesting. Hey, whoa. Hello? Friend? You want to be on today's show? You sure about that? Generally, you nap now. You want to be? Obviously, Piper has some thoughts and opinions she wants to share with the rest of the world. She has a lot of opinions. Hey, it's okay. I know the big, beautiful bill's crazy, and you have some thoughts on it. Huh? You coming down here? Well, whatever you're going to do, you got to do it fast. We're professionals here. We're running a show, Piper. We're running. Oh, how can we be professionals when you're so nice this morning? Here, come down here. Oh, she just wants to take a nap, you know? Big cat nap. She's a big cat nap kind of a gal. So where were we? Oh yeah, you people were just basically saying, no, he can't do anything wrong. I voted for him and I love him. And he would never, ever, ever go against whatever he promised to us. This idea that this concept of like, I trust him to do the best for all of us. Well, don't forget, we're talking about politicians. That feels a little crazy to just assume that a politician has your best interest at heart. That's a bit of a stretch. Cats are one generation from being feral. Same here, brother. Speaking of feral, let's talk about the feral stock market today. It's going to start off feral because at 9:30, Jerome Powell's going to be talking. I kind of joke when I say it's going to be feral because generally he's pretty like refined in his approach to public commentary, so I don't think he's going to say anything too crazy. But that's going to be the hot part of today's show, really, is right at market open, Jerome Powell speaking. I already have it queued up. We're going to be listening to him. At 9:45, we're going to be getting some PMI numbers at first manufacturing, and then we're going to get PMI and prices for ISM. So that's going to be going down at 10, and JOLTS job opening. So today is like the 1, 2, 3 combo punch. 9:30, Jerome Powell starts talking. 9:45, we get some ISM numbers. And then at 10 a.m., we're going to get the JOLTS job opening. So bing, bong, boom. Definitely pay attention to all of that. And I should let you know that tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to be getting more employment numbers. Thursday, we're going to be getting all of the hot, right here. You could see not only is it a weird half day, but we get the unemployment rate, non-farm payroll. So Thursday is a strange day, half day with a lot of macroeconomic reports, and then the market is officially closed on Friday. So that's a little bit of a peek of what's coming down the pipeline. But for those of you who are day traders, scalp traders, just focusing on today, 9:30, 9:45, 10 a.m., we have things going down. Circling back to Jerome Powell, well, it's going to kind of be interesting here. As you could see, talking about the late July meeting, July 30th, there's a 79% chance that we stay at 4.25. That's actually very, very high chance, but it's actually coming down, as in the odds of a rate cut are slightly increasing more than they have been before really the last FOMC meeting, and interest rates and inflation reports, and really just other, even like Trump's badgering. The odds of a rate cut were kind of just non-existent. In fact, we didn't really have chances of a rate cut until we got to the September meeting. But as you can see here now, there's actually an 85-90% chance that we're going to have at least a rate cut by September. So the odds are shifting, favoring the doves, which, as you can see from the fact that the market hit an all-time high, it's definitely digesting that as a bullish just development. So it's going to be interesting to see how this particularly changes after his speech today, if he says anything interesting. If you want to see this yourself, just go to the CMEgroup.com or just Google Fed Watch Tool if you want to see what the current odds are for rate cuts and whatnot. So just wanted to share that with all of you, and obviously kind of getting into the overall market. But the one thing I've really been tracking this morning on top of the SPY and the Qs is what in the world is going on with Tesla. Lost almost 2% yesterday. It's down almost another 6% this morning. In pre-market trading, it is below $300, and that's because the bromance, which then became a fight, and then they got back together. Well, apparently dad and dad are fighting again. Tesla stock slides after Trump-Musk feud reignites. If you are bullish in the short term on Tesla, that is not what you want to hear. Breaking: Trump implies Doge may look into Elon Musk's subsidies. This is what played out overnight, and that's why the market is getting murked. Elon Musk knew long before he so strongly endorsed me for president that I was strongly against the EV mandate. It is ridiculous. It was always a major part of my campaign. Electric cars are fine, but not everyone should be forced to own one. Elon may get more subsidy than any human being in history by far, and without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved. And then Elon followed up, I am literally saying cut it all now. Now, is it true that a lot of Tesla's revenue comes from the U.S. government and via the form of tax credits and subsidies? 100% that is accurate. Now, at this moment, if they didn't have it, would he have to close up shop and head back to South Africa? No, he's still, at least on paper, the world's rich. I shouldn't say on paper, at least reported, he's still the world's richest man. And I'm saying that because we obviously all know there's richer people than Elon Musk in this world. They just happen to not have to deal with the SEC and file their wealth publicly. But regardless, that's a bit dramatic of like, pack up shop and head out of here. That's not going to happen. But regardless, in the short term, the impact is Tesla stock falling. And like I said, dad and dad are fighting again. Musk shreds Trump's tax bill as debt slavery, vows to unseat Republicans who back it. So it all centers around the spending. and the big, beautiful bill. And we're going to be either hearing about it today or ideally by this Friday. Musk very, very unhappy. So I see some people in chat, you're basically saying, no, I don't want spending to go up, and you're on Musk's side. I see other people saying, hey, no, Trump can't do anything wrong. I voted for him, and I trust he has my interest in his heart. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. I don't know. But one person who's clearly upset about this, and he's made his opinion well known, is Musk. He's been popping off on Twitter/X, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then this is leading to exactly Trump's clapback. And then that leads to Musk's clapback to the clapback. And like I said, we're going to need a freaking diagram to keep this all together. But regardless, the end result in the short term is Tesla stock getting hit. Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk unloaded on the massive tax and spending bill that Trump is pushing Republicans to quickly ram through Congress. Musk vowed that any fiscal conservatives who vote for the bill will face his wrath in their next primary races. Musk spent around $290 billion backing Trump and other Republicans in 2024 election cycle and beyond, but recently feuded publicly with the president. Basically saying if this goes through, he's going to create an entirely new party that is a little bit more fiscally conservative. Trump reprises Tesla's subsidy threat as Musk bashes the spending bill.
Most recently, Trump writing on Truth Social that Musk may get more subsidies than any human being in history so far, and that Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back to South Africa without subsidies. Tyler, is this just palace intrigue, or could this have real ramifications?
Palace intrigue.
Well, I think it's probably a little bit of both. One, this is starting to veer into the personal again with President Trump also appearing to threaten in his post on Truth Social that there should be some sort of investigation because Elon Musk has benefited from government subsidies. He also said that he made clear to Musk when they started working together that he had long been against the tax credits under the Inflation Reduction Act, which we know was considered to be a main policy priority for the Biden administration. But when we actually look at some of the tangible ramifications here, we did get one indication that the money really is starting to flow from both sides. President Trump has threatened to primary Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky in the House, who has said that he will not vote for this bill. And he actually did make good on that promise. The political arm of his campaign operation launched a super PAC against Thomas Massie. But then we had Elon Musk yesterday confirming that he donated to Thomas Massie's campaign, really putting their money where they're saying that they would. And that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch if we see money flooding in from both sides. Because, Danny, keep in mind, Elon Musk contributed more than $290 million during the 2024 cycle to both the White House race, but also to congressional races, which made him the largest U.S. political donor during the cycle.
Yep. I guess paradise isn't all it's cracked up to be. But on top of that, Elon Musk's XAI raises $10 billion in debt and equity as it steps up challenge to OpenAI. So I'm just pivoting a little bit to his other ventures. Obviously, very much into the world of XAI, and you probably have used Grok, or at minimum, you've heard about it. But right here from just the news cycle that clearly we've been leaning into, AI is here to stay. These semiconductors, this entire industry, it's getting big. And if I had to bet, it's just going to get bigger. And I see some of you already in chat commenting on it of how Apple is finally doing well. Well, surprise, surprise, it relates to AI. Apple weighs using Anthropic or OpenAI to power Siri in major reversal. This is a major reversal because Apple multiple times said, nope, we're doing it in-house. We have our own AI systems. They're great. Don't worry about it. And finally, they're waving the white flag saying, hey, folks, we suck at this. And basically, they're most likely going to tap a different AI provider to be able to use that with Siri. And that's exactly why the stock is going up right now, because the market is interpreting that as, hey, finally, you're admitting you don't know what you don't know, and you're finding a solution to a very evident problem. So to those of you paying attention to Apple right now, finally, the stock is waking up. I mean, and I'm saying finally because it feels like for weeks now it's done absolutely nothing. So this is pretty much this skinny on the situation of why it's doing well. Now, if you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter, macros.locals.com. It's pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. It is 100% free. It's always been free, always will be free. Every single Sunday to your email inbox, you get a breakdown of what's going on in the market, a little cheat sheet of all the major macroeconomic events, a little cheat sheet of the seasonality for each individual day, which brings me to something exciting. Tuesday, July 1st, over the past 27 years, the Bulls have won this day 78% of the time. I'm in a good mood, so we might as well round up to 80%. 4 out of 5 years, the Bulls win this day with an amazing profit factor of 5.78, as in every dollar spent in the bullish direction has returned $5.78. And this is a look at the hypothetical equity curve you would have if you bought it open, sold at close on the S&P 500 futures market, which I'm saying that because it opens up technically at a different time. So about 25 years ago, 2.5 decades, it was a little bit rocky, but then ever since then, just ripping. Now, just because the Bulls historically do win this day in aggregate, does that mean you should get a third mortgage on your house and rip it today? God, no. I'm giving you the odds right here. Historically, the Bulls have won 78% of the time, which means that the Bears have won 22% of the time. So obviously, not a guarantee. I'm giving you the odds of the situation that from a seasonality perspective, the Bulls do win out on this day. Just fast forwarding to tomorrow, Wednesday, July the 2nd, it was bearish for quite a while, but then over the past decade, it's really starting to pick up. And then we have a half day on Thursday. It's a bit more bullish. And then Friday, obviously, the market is closed. So like I said, this is 100% free. It's always been free, always will be free. Feel free to sign up for it. It's in the description of my mod. We'll also drop it in chat. And then that brings us back to what in the world is going on today. So the market's going to open up in about 3 minutes. And at that time, that's when we're going to start hearing from Jerome Powell. He's doing a speech. He's over in Europe. These are the key levels that I'll be watching for the entire day, not just out of the gate, as I always do. I mark out the previous high, low, and close. Those are going to be key technical levels, key psychological levels, key pivot levels. And as you can see, especially with the closing value down here, they a lot of the times happen to overlap with key open interest levels as well. So that's what these yellow lines are. That's where big players are on a zero DTE perspective within the options market. So there's going to be just most likely market reaction at those levels. And then the final thing is this white box, which is the transition zone on the zero DTE, reading both gamma and delta. And I put those together. Just it's a easy to know if above it bullish, below it bearish, within it expecting chop. So these are the key levels. Feel free to write them down. Feel free to use them. Feel free to not use them. I don't really care. It's up to you. But this is obviously what I'll be paying attention to: the high, the low, the close, all the key open interest levels, and then also the transition zone from the perspective of options. So let's switch this over to the 1 minute so we can see how things are going to be shaping up on the day. All right, cool. We have this. Let's get this all ready. And then we're going to be waiting for Powell to get popping. Very quickly before market open, a shout out to today's stream partner. I am talking about Take Profit Trader, which is actually doing a really impressive deal right now. Take Profit Trader, this is off. This is actually now 40%. If you use the code Goonie, you're actually going to get 40% off. You're never going to pay an activation fee. Generally, their deal is 30% off. So the deal is now better. 40% off if you use that code Goonie. But what's really cool is with their Pro Plus accounts, they're actually no longer doing measuring your drawdown from your unrealized high. They're doing your end of day measurement, which is phenomenal. So, a lot of the times, especially on Apex, when I'm talking about like, no, the delta difference between your unrealized high and realized, and like what number are we basing it off of for your drawdown? Well, Take Profit Trader on their Pro Plus accounts now, it's only going to be based on your end of day value. So amazing. That like absolutely amazing. It is 40% off. They've improved the rules. I absolutely love it. And right now, so not only can you get a fat discount, there's no activation fee. The rules are now like literally more favorable for you to be successful. So check that out. It is pinned to the top of chat. It's in the description of the video. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard the news yesterday. That's when it was announced. I'm sure you got all the emails. But right now, legitimately an amazing deal. And I'm a big fan of any of these companies that are making the rules a bit more favorable for you, for me, the actual traders, rather than just taking the payments all the time. So check it out. Like I said, pinned to the top of chat, in the description of the video. The Pro Plus accounts, like, not only is it a good deal, the 40% off, but in my book, the exciting thing is the fact that with the Pro Plus accounts, they are now only basing your drawdown based on your end of day value, not your unrealized high. And for anyone who's messing around with these SIMDA funded accounts, you obviously can appreciate how big of a deal that is. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So check that out. And with all that being said, where is the speech? We should be getting going soon. All right. It is above my head. And as of right now, we are awkwardly waiting to see for them to talk. Adapting to change, macroeconomic shifts, and policy responses. All right. Well, on that note, dingity ding ding ding. The world's largest casino is now open. Best of luck to all. Play responsibly, and if not, have fun. Alrighty. What in the world are we doing today? Tesla getting more hit out of the gate. People on the SPY and the Qs buying the dip right out of the gate. The Mag 7. Let's reload this. What in the world are we doing today? Teamity, team. What are we gonna be doing today? Oh, brother. Oh, brother, oh, brother, oh, brother. Oh, brother, oh, sister. Oh, brother, oh, sister.
Order submitted.
Oh, brother. Okay, there's a pending order. It has not gone through, of course. Oh, let me actually switch this up so you guys can see the proper screen. Okay, that's still up there. I'm just trying to get everything rocking today. So the SPY, granted, we don't have much data. Qs, that's getting a little bit hit right there. All right, let's see how this is shaping up. Tesla getting hit. I'm seeing quite a bit more red than I would like to be seeing. Seeing quite a bit more red over here and above my head, but that's probably, dude, Tesla's down 7%. It is getting destroyed right now. SpaghettiOs. SPY trying to do its thing. 5 minute. Oh, the 5 minute on the S&P 500 is attempting to push back bullish. Hopefully that has enough follow through and umph to get the 10 minute to also push. And then I would even love to see a recovery of the 30 minute. The NASDAQ is definitely leaving a little bit to be desired. The 5 minute is bearish, 10 minutes bearish, 30 minutes bearish, and obviously not even fighting as much as we're seeing in the S&P 500 at the moment. But also remember, we are just getting going. There's a lot of time left in today. The live stream is about to start. All right, well, we were waiting on that. It would be nice to get going here. All right. We are just waiting. I have some pending orders in just in case some of these extreme levels get hit, but I've actually not executed a trade quite yet. I just have pending orders up. This is day 2 of my self-imposed trading challenge that we spoke about yesterday. The name of the game is basically within 1 or 2 shrewd trades, trying to make $300. And the second I do, gotta shut it down. And the goal is basically to see how long I can run that. And really the goal from there is at minimum 10 days, just because 2 trading weeks. And also that is you're fully maxing out the buffers. And there's other interesting mathematical implications of hitting that. But this is day 2. Day 1 was yesterday, went well, waited for one perfect trade setup, got in, got out, took my 15 points with slippage. It was a little bit less than $300. So today is day 2 of the challenge. And remember, folks, the name of the game here is if I fail at this, it is 100% your fault. If you guys see me still trading after I make $300, you better start yelling at me like no other.
We are facing major structural changes.
Hello? Mom?
Related to aging, digitalization, the greening of the economy. And with all that, we have to deliver on our mission, price stability. So if you're interested in those issues, come to the ECB Forum in Sintra. We will debate all that and more.
what, brother? Uh-huh.
Welcome back after lunch. I'm delighted
Lunch?
to announce one of the highlights of the ECB's Sintra Forum, our policy panel. The world economy is undergoing a period of rapid and intense change. The questions of our next panel, the questions for our next panel will cover what these fundamental shifts mean for the future of monetary policy, and we are honoured to have an exceptional lineup of officials to answer them. We are also honoured to have Francine Lacroix, anchor and editor-at-large at Bloomberg
Francine
Television,
Lacroix.
to be guiding the conversation. Francine, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Claire, thank you so much for that introduction. What can I say? We have 1 hour and there's a lot to discuss. So welcome to the policy panel, Sintra 2025. Now, from tariff-related trade ructions to oil price gyrations, caused by also Middle East hostilities, there are many questions on, first of all, how to handle the fallout from some of the political decisions, but much more how the economy behaves. Now, 1 year on since the last Sintra panel, and of course, halfway through 2025, global policy needs to navigate risks posed both to inflation and growth, a challenge highlighted by the Bank for International Settlements in a report this week. So let's get started. We have 1 hour. Kazuo Ueda, Governor, Bank of Japan. Of course, our host, Christine Lagarde, of the European Central Bank President. We have Jay Powell, Chair, Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. We have Chang Yong-ri, Governor, Bank of Korea, and then Andrew Bailey, Governor for the Bank of England. Madame Lagarde, let's start with you as our host. So first of all, thank you so much for having us all here. We had a little bit of data today, this morning, consumer prices rising some 2% from a year ago, up from May's 1.9%. But then the tariffs still loom large. So how do you see that developing?
Well, first of all, I would note that we are at 2%.
Order submitted.
And this is the latest reading. This is also the target that we have had, and this is the projection that our staff is indicating for the medium term, which is exactly what we had anticipated. So I'm not saying mission accomplished, but I say target reached, okay? And I think we should start by recognizing that. We faced a massive amount of shocks, compounded shocks occasionally, and we are now through that disinflationary process that we have conducted over the last 2 years. And yes, we are facing a lot of uncertainty. Yes, we are facing the risk of fragmentation increasing. And yes, we are facing geopolitical developments that are worrying generally, but that also are causing two-side risk to inflation. So we have to continue to be extremely vigilant. We have to continue to be committed to delivering on our target. And I think we are at this point in time in a very good position to do that. So we are well equipped to navigate the tormented waters that we should anticipate.
Chair Powell, tariffs are not yet showing up in inflation. Is this forcing you or your staff to actually rethink what the models say about how much the tariffs will ultimately through some of the final prices?
So thank you, Francine. And Christine, thank you to you and your colleagues for putting on another great conference here today. It's been a pleasure. I guess I would start, if I may, by saying that the U.S. economy is in a pretty good position. Inflation has come down close to 2%. We're at 2.3 headline, 2.7 core. The unemployment rate is at 4.2%, so we're healthy overall. If you ignore the tariffs for a second, inflation is behaving pretty much exactly as we have expected and hoped that it would. We haven't seen effects much yet from tariffs, and we didn't expect to by now. We've always said that the timing, amount, and persistence of the inflation would be highly uncertain, and it's certainly improved that. So we're watching. We expect to see over the summer some readings, higher readings, but we're prepared to learn that it can be higher or lower or later or sooner than we'd expected.
But, Chair, would the Fed have cut more by now if it weren't for the tariffs?
That's a good question.
I think that's right. In effect, we went on hold when we saw the size of the tariffs and essentially all inflation forecasts for the United States went up materially as a consequence of the tariffs. So We didn't overreact. In fact, we didn't react at all. We're simply taking some time. As long as the U.S. economy is in solid shape, we think the prudent thing to do is to wait and learn more and see what those effects might be. And again, they haven't really shown up. And so for now, we're waiting.
Governor Rhee, I mean, South Korea's economy is, of course, highly reliant on trade. Putting aside
5
the
minutes
deals
trying
that
to break
each
out,
government
10-minute
can
testing.
strike with the Trump administration, what can
Smack,
central
smack.
banks, in your position, do to shield economies from the impact of trade tariffs?
Actually, about the tariffs' impact on inflation, our current inflation is well stabilized around 2%, and we believe tariff tends to be deflationary rather than inflationary for 3 reasons. One is Korea is not likely to use retaliatory tariff. Second, we import 22% of our import from China, and recently export price of China has been falling at 5% a year for several years, and we believe that it will continue to do so. And at this moment, our growth rate is 0.8%, which is well below our potential growth rate. So aggregate demand pressure.
Data drop at 9:45, so that's in 5 minutes. ISM manufacturing PMI.
So what does that mean you'll do going forward?
Yeah, actually, we have been in easing cycle, and we cut our interest rate 100 BP from last October, and we will continue to be in an easing cycle given our growth rate.
S&P 500 delta picking up.
Stability risk has
Mag
been rising,
7
especially
down, then up,
housing
now
price
kind of
in
flat.
metropolitan area is increasing very
Tesla
fast.
catching
So
a
we are
bid.
keeping eye on
That's
this
so bad.
financial stability risk in deciding the pace and the timing of the further cuts.
Governor Bailey, you've taken the view that the latest rises in inflation in the UK will be transitory. Why are you so confident that inflation will fall back?
Actually, you may have detected I've tried to avoid using the transitory word because it was, oddly enough, it has a bit of a history. But to be serious, obviously any increase in inflation is an increase in inflation, sorry to state the obvious. The reasons it's gone up is really entirely due to so-called administered prices. Now, that's, as I say, that's an increase in prices, don't get me wrong. But it's not telling us much or anything about the context of the economy. In other words, it's not telling us anything really much about the balance of supply and demand in the economy. So I think the key judgment for us is, are we going to get second-round effects from this this pickup? And of course, it's nothing like the pickup of a few years ago, just to be clear. And my judgment is at the moment is that the context is different, that we do see evidence. I see some signs of softening in the economy, I see signs of softening in the labour market. We are going to have to see those come through, though. I mean, come through into prices. I think we've still got to see the evidence and prices. But that background context allows certainly me to say, look, I think the direction of interest rates continues to be downwards.
When you look at all of the uncertainty, again, it's a bold call given what happened to oil prices and trade negotiations?
It is. I mean, I would say two things on that. One, I think as others have said, it's probably, Jay was saying, I think it's a bit too soon, I think, really to see the price effects coming through from the trade and tariffs action. We've made a point of saying also that, I think as Christine was saying, that these are two-sided. They could go either way. Could be weaker demand. We could see supply chain disruption. And the second thing, of course, is that some of these effects, if you take the oil price story, it's gone up, it's come down, all since our last meeting, effectively. So, we always reach for the lexicon at this point. I mean, we've added unpredictability to uncertainty. I was slightly amused at the introductory film this morning with Christine saying all these words, because it's true. Because not only are we getting uncertainty in the sense, the range of outcomes, but unpredictable in the sense that if you get things like, the tariff action, history really isn't a particularly good guide to that, actually. You can't really draw much from the past on that.
Now, Governor Ueda, you're in a slightly different situation, right? Japan's CPI has stayed above 2% for 3 years now. What do you see as the fundamental changes in your economy that make inflation more persistent?
So let me say, to put it simply, as you say, headline inflation has been above 2% for almost 3 years, while what we call underlying inflation is still somewhat below 2%. That's the situation we are in. But if I could decompose it further, there's probably about 3 components to it. First, there's underlying inflation dictated by wage price dynamics, whereby increases in prices affect wages, which further affect prices, helped by resilient domestic demand. This component has been going up slowly, but as I said, it's still somewhat below 2%. Then there's going to be perhaps a second component, which will be the expected negative effects of possible tariffs on the economy and on prices. We are expecting this to take place, but we haven't seen that yet. There's a third component, which is a domestic supply shock generated by increases in food prices. Actually, this component accounts for about 50% of the headline inflation we've got at the moment. So netting these three, we think the first component and the second component will produce a slow increase in underlying inflation toward 2% by end 26 or 27. The third component, food inflation, is going to subside.
Mag 7 is actually holding. Even though price is getting hit here, the Mag 7 is trending up in Delta.
Interplays between these
SPY's taking a bit of a breather.
Governor, how do you view trade concerns the day after President Trump threatened Japan with more tariffs?
Well, it's being negotiated by our
numbers just dropped.
Minister in charge, so I'm trying to avoid making any specific
52.9 when they expected 52.
So let me just ask you,
beating
what
52.9 versus 52 on the S&P manufacturing PMI.
Okay, as I said, it will depend on the relative strength of the
SPY, new high intraday, Q's
I was
recovering.
describing, and we need some more information to determine that.
President Lagarde, when you look at rate cuts,
15-minute Orbo breakout on the SPY.
Where do you see actually the ECB going?
No breakout or breakdown on the 15-minute on the Qs quite yet.
Data will tell. So I think we are determined to continue to be data dependent, to decide meeting by meeting, and to not commit to any particular rate path. That's the doxa.
SPY is trying to break out on the 5 and the 10, 30 minutes also testing.
Which really
NASDAQ
gives us
has
a good
room
framework
to
and
work.
good strategy lines within which to operate. But those three aspects that I have mentioned, data dependent, meeting by meeting, no commitment to any particular rate path, are constant in that ongoing strategy based on what we have.
Captain Condor is back.
Yesterday.
Put credit spread is 6175. Call credit spread is
From our
6235.
standpoint, as you will have seen, a solid majority of FOMC participants do expect that it will become appropriate later this year to begin to reduce rates again. And so, that will depend, though, as Christine just mentioned, on the incoming data. We'll be monitoring particularly what does show up in terms of inflation or what does not show up, and also carefully watching the labor market. We watch very carefully for signs of unexpected weakness. We see a gradual cooling, but we don't really see that yet. So those are the things we'll be watching. But as I mentioned, a majority of us do feel that will be appropriate in the remaining 4 meetings of the year to begin to reduce rates again.
Madame Lagarde, the euro has also surged about 12% against the dollar so far this year. Are you concerned that its strength runs counter to your efforts to also loosen financial conditions?
I'm not going to comment on the exchange rate. We take it into account for purposes of our projections. Obviously, it has an impact, but it's a reflection of the market conditions and assessment. It's also a reflection of the strength of our economy. But there has been a clear appreciation relative to the dollar, and depending on how you look at it, it's either a depreciation of the dollar or an appreciation of the euros. And there might be a bit of both in that particular case. We're also looking at the movement, the flow of capitals and the attractiveness of euro-denominated assets, which is also an interesting phenomenon that we've observed lately.
Chair Powell, is it fair to say, I know nothing is guaranteed, number one, we all know this. Barring a real surprise, is July just too soon to seriously even consider a rate cut?
Yeah, I really can't say. It's going to depend on the data, and we are going meeting by meeting. I mentioned, how I'm thinking about that, but I wouldn't take any meeting off the table or put it directly on
A little
the
bit of
table.
a pop there,
It's going to depend
folks.
on how the data evolve.
A little bit of a
what's the
pippity
biggest
pop.
risk stemming from protectionist trade policy, actually, for the global economy and
Let's
for
go.
South Korea?
Day 2. Let's lock it in, folks.
The biggest risk stemming from
Day 2.
trades and protectionist
Day 2.
measures.
You know, Korea has quite export-driven
Day
economy.
2.
So whatever the global fragmentation has a serious impact, not only direct impact through the U.S. tariff, but also indirect impacts through China, Mexico, Canada. And we easily can, it really depends on what's going to happen on July 9th. We are actually waiting for the result, but we don't know what's going to happen. But for example, like if the tariff goes back to 26% retaliatory tariff that was announced in April
you
2nd.
fucker.
And then also with a lot of sectoral tariff which affect our economy, aluminum, steel, and cars. We can easily say that it has impact larger than close to 1% in our GDP growth rate. And depending on how long it lasts, I think we have to adjust to the new supply chain, so the impact will be larger. So, but I hope that scenario won't come.
What is the most concern for the Bank of Korea? Is it a stalling South Korea exports, slowdown in global trade, or a downturn in the U.S. economy?
I was promised a follow through.
Right? It's all linked, right?
I was promised a VWAP test.
And one thing, I mentioned some negative sides only, but one positive side, I don't know if it's positive or not, but Korean companies has been preparing for the supply diversification long time ago before the tariff, U.S. tariffs started to, because we have some issues with China, and then also Chinese industry has become
Bada bing, bada boom. He does it again. Day 2 of the challenge is a success. Lock it in. Read them and weep.
Still, good thing is that we have some strong industry
I just want to make
such
sure
as semiconductor, which benefit
all
from
the orders
AI,
are canceled.
Technology development.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I hope that we can manage
another
it,
6K, 7K, something like that.
Just we look at the sheer
This time,
size
a
of the
little bit of
export
slippage in my favor.
We will be significantly
Did it. Crushed it.
Governor Bailey, do
20
you think
Apex
interest rates will be
accounts.
closer to 3 or
20 Apex accounts, 2 take profit accounts. So 22 accounts, just over $300 a pop. Like I said, I just want to make sure all these orders are canceled. Well, let me shut down the copier. And remember, you guys are supposed to yell at me if I keep trading. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the appropriate thing and shut it down. Boom. Just like that. It's called accountability, folks. Freaking accountability. Like I said, the partner of today's stream is Take Profit Trader. Don't mind the fact that it says 30% off. It's actually 40% off. For some reason, I didn't update my banner. That's 100% on me. You could use that code Goonie. 40% off. No activation fee. And now those Pro Plus accounts, it's amazing. They're not going to be doing your drawdown from the unrealized high. It's going to be an end of day drawdown, which for anyone who's done sim to funded trading, you know how big of a deal that is. So shout out to TPT. Highly recommend you guys all check it out. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Use that code Goonie to get that 40% off. But I am particularly stoked that they are doing that. Like, I mean, I think that's a phenomenal offering.
Expected it to be, but based on past experience. So again, that feeds through into just how restrictive policy is at a given interest rate. It's somewhat less restrictive probably than it would have been historically.
Could I ask all of you actually thoughts on the neutral rates? Chair
Tesla
Powell.
trying to recover.
Thoughts on the neutral rate? I think there are countless empirical and theoretical ways to derive it. At the end of the day, I think I like to look at the economy and ask whether our policy stance is having the effects we expect and want on the economy. And to me, I would say we're somewhere probably modestly restrictive at this level. And by some formulations, we're more restrictive than that. But if you look at the economy, growth has been solid. The labor market is solid and still at historically low levels of unemployment. It's not an economy that feels like it's suffering from very tight monetary policy. But I would say that policy is still restrictive.
President Lagarde?
I would say that it's a nice concept, it's interesting, and many of the terribly talented and brilliant economists in this room actually are delighted with discussion about the neutral rate. But honestly, as we're getting closer to target and to where we should be, or are where we should be, and I don't want to pass judgment on that, I think that discussion becomes less relevant. I think what our staff at the ECB measures leads us to believe that it is higher than where it was before the great financial crisis.
40% off.
But it's relatively low,
40%
low
off.
as well, compared, for instance, with what the US neutral rate is at the moment.
Hey, that's me.
You know, in a way, it's a bit of an illusion to discuss that at the moment, because the neutral rate is normally defined in a world where there is no shock, where you have perfect equilibrium. Now, are we in a world with no shocks at the moment? I don't think so. So it's nice to have as a concept, nice to elaborate on it, nice to do research on it, but to use it at the moment where we are as a guiding principle to where we should be, I don't think is particularly appropriate.
Andrew Bailey?
Well, that sort of continues what I was saying earlier. Again, I don't use it as a sort of a guide to where policy should be, but I think this whole concept of restrictiveness is, of course, critical to
Apple
our
is
judgment,
looking
because
good.
that's critical to the transmission mechanism of policy, which we have to judge every time we meet. So that's a judgment that, in a sense, we renew every meeting we
Technical
have.
breakout there on
I think,
Apple.
Rather
It's
agree with
looking
what Jay
good.
was just saying. I think, in our case, policy is restrictive at the moment. It's going to
Next
become
stop,
less
214, 215.
restrictive based on the curve that we've got in the market. That's what I would expect. We will judge it each time.
Governor Ree? Similar?
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, how would you see it, Governor Ueda?
Yes, so we also estimated something like the neutral rate a number of times. But the range of estimates is very wide. So, but at least we think we can say that the current rate is below neutral. But other than that, I would refer to what Jay said a year or two ago in the Jackson Hole conference, which was like, we are guided by our staff, but under cloudy sky.
President Lagarde, can you talk to us about scenario and why this is, because of the shocks and actually the changes that are going very fast, why scenarios make more sense as a template of the economy?
Oh, okay. So this is a topic that we have largely debated as part of the strategy assessment that we conducted in the last year. And I think, in fairness, the baseline, which is, the essential projection on which we work and we determine our monetary policy stance, holds and is decisive in our consideration. But at the same time, our staff has, I wouldn't say forever, but as long as I know myself, has always conducted scenario analysis, sensitivity analysis, in order to arrive at, the most solid baseline. It is probably the case that we will do more of it, more systematically, that we might publish more often than we have. We have published, I think, in the last few years, in four circumstances we have published scenario analysis. The invasion of Ukraine was one, COVID was one, the oil crisis as well, and the tariff threats. So all those were exogenous factors that were sort of hitting our screens. I think we might do more scenario analysis that will be looking at the longer-term trends that will affect our economy, and that will inform and strengthen our baseline, enhance it probably in its reliability. So that's what we are debating at the moment. How this is built, what assumptions we make, what choices are decided in terms of publishing will be determined by the Governing Council in good intelligence with our staff.
Yeah, and Jay Powell, on scenarios?
So for many years, we have used scenario analysis internally, and I personally find it very useful. I think many of my colleagues do too. You have just many different kinds of scenarios. We have 6 or 7 at every FOMC meeting. They're often the topic of discussion among governors and at the meeting. We have not taken the step of using them as a public communications device, and that's a big difference. So that's one of the things we're going to be talking about this fall. We will wrap up the first part of our framework review, which is the consensus statement, our monetary policy framework, we expect to by the end of the summer. And then we're going to use the fall meetings to look at communications ideas, and that's one of the ones we'll look at. I will say it has a lot of appeal. And
Perfect
a lot of
rejection at
questions. And so my
6,200.
expectation is
That's exactly why you got to pay attention
if we're
to
going
these
to do
key
something
levels.
in that area, it's going to be
Top of the transition
putting
zone,
a toe in the water,
huge
and not
open
just
interest level,
throwing
massive
ourselves,
psychological
over Niagara
implications.
Falls on it. So
If
I
you
can
were
imagine a
buying right
situation where we
here,
would
that's
try
just a
that
tactical
in
mistake on your end.
particular
Like you should
circumstance,
not
but
have been
for
going
us,
long
we're just
there.
going to do the work and understand it, as many other central banks are doing now.
In our case, we use the scenario analysis in our risk management section as a kind of representing the tail risk. But I have to read the ECB report, but if we have to move that section into the more forecasting section.
Mag 7 still
public
pushing.
communication,
Has a
I
lot to
wonder
do with
whether
Apple,
It's going to be easy to get some consensus.
Netflix,
Which scenario we have to do
MicroStrategy,
it
Meta,
among our probably
Avago,
members in the monetary policy
AMD,
meeting.
Palantir's getting
because
hit,
that scenario and those underlying
Microsoft,
assumption may be much
Tesla.
harder to
People are buying the
to
dip on
communicate
Tesla.
and to agree among the members. And also, it's specific to us, but how I can differentiate the previous approach of risk management section to the forecasting that I have to think over what we have to do.
So I think two things I would add, and it's very much in the same spirit as colleagues. One,
Data just dropped.
we introduced two scenarios in the May round and in the May report. For me, they were very useful. They were either on either side. They weren't symmetric, by the way, but they were on either side.
Manufacturing
For me,
PMI
they were very useful
higher
in
than
terms of my
expected.
decision-making because they helped
Manufacturing
me to answer the
prices
question,
higher
given
than
the
expected.
uncertainty.
JOLTS job
If we're wrong-
openings
if I'm wrong
more
in my
than
judgments,
expected.
How
So
wrong am I going
everything
to be?
higher.
Do I think I'm going to
From
be?
9:45
what would be
till
the
now.
consequences of that? And what would we then have to do to deal with them? And is it manageable?
Watch for this
And that was
retest
helpful.
of
And then I think the
6,200.
question coming back to
This is going to
what Dave
be
was saying
the
in
key
terms of
test.
public
From there, you
communication.
can
I mean,
watch
this is a big
the
step, I
red to
think,
green
and
test at
it is challenging. I'll tell you
6,205.
why, because I say this quite a lot. We make a lot of conditional statements. You may have detected this in all the many interviews you do. And I'm not making a personal comment now, Francine, but a lot of those conditional comments get immediately translated as unconditional comments. It's sort of life.
We're quite careful, but
No, it's not personal. This is the general point. And so the reason I say this is that if we, and that's about the central case, by the way. So if we introduce scenarios, that's a message to us that you're going to have to do this very carefully in that world, because to get the point across about there is always a range, there's always uncertainty, there is always risk. How you calibrate those and how you, as Jay was saying, how you communicate those publicly is critical, but pretty challenging, frankly, in that environment.
Governor Ueda?
Yes, we also carry out many simulation exercises about scenarios, but we have not, as far as I know, published them. We do discuss in our quarterly reports qualitatively what risks we have in mind. On top of that, I would say, in a very rough way, we are carrying out something like a risk management approach to monetary policy making, which is probably a bit similar to what Christine was talking about yesterday. I can't come up with a good example, but risk scenarios, thinkings about tail risks, sometimes do affect our monetary policy making.
Can I ask you all about the dollar, everyone's favorite subject? So when you tune out noise, right, of the past few months, what has really changed about the dollar? Governor Rhee, are we really seeing some sort of paradigm shift in the status as a reserve currency that means historians will look back on 2025 as some sort of pivotal year?
I don't think so. Especially
Options market is way stronger than prices suggesting.
Has appreciated significantly in the last 2 months, but I think it's mostly due to the very unique situation that we had.
What a bounce back in Tesla, 294 to 304.
Declaration in last December, and after that, this political risk, together with the slowdown in our economy, really make Korean won depreciate much more than our fundamentals explain. So, in some sense, the appreciation that we have observed in the last 2 months, in some sense, normalization of our currencies. And as for the kind of long-term shift of the dollar sentiment, we have discussions, but looks like people are talking about it. But at this moment, they keep the dollar assets while they're increasing the hedge ratios. So at this moment, I think the lion's share of the impact, BIS report show this one, is impact is mostly moving from the unhedged to the hedged positions. So we have to see what will happen in the future.
Yeah, Governor Bailey?
Well, I'd say two things. First of all, I think that it's important to bear in mind what the definition of a reserve currency is and how it's evolved over many years. So I like John Ray. I don't see there being a sort of a major shift at the moment. Not least because in this day and age, the definition of a reserve currency has as much to do with the supply of safe assets into the market that can be used for all the purposes of sort of collateral and security that they are, as much as it is about a sort of pure exchange rate. So I think we're a long way off that change happening. The second thing is going back to something Christine was saying earlier. I mean, when we look at financial conditions, which we do, of course, but I do think particularly, I always believe this, but I think it's even more relevant at the moment to unpack.
NQ is having the worst time getting
because we've seen a breakdown in the correlations
here.
of the
Keeps
components
getting
of
up,
the
smack,
financial
up,
conditions
smack,
index.
up,
So you look
smack.
at sort of bond yields, you look at exchange rates.
Well,
you
the
look at
S&P
equity
500 is trying to
risk
hold.
premium, for instance. Those correlations are not the ones that we've tended to see established over time. So you have to look at it much more carefully. There are stories, to my mind, about each of the components of that. So when I look at the exchange rate, I look at it very much on that basis. I don't think it's sensible to sort of pack it all up as we normally would and say it's all behaving normally, because the correlations are not actually.
Governor Ueda, there's also many colleagues at central banks, I guess, around the world are building up gold reserves. Is that the only real alternative to the dollar?
I think it's up to a certain extent what areas like Europe or China would do in terms of improving the efficiency or convenience of their currencies, like the kinds of things we were discussing this morning, capital markets integration, and these things will change the degree to which the role of the dollar may decline in the future.
Madame Lagarde?
I think, I don't know if 2025 will be a pivotal year. I would tend to think that, yes, it might very well be. But for a major change to occur will take a lot of time and will require a lot of effort. And I completely agree with the points made by Andrew about the dichotomy that we're seeing at the moment. And that might be an indication of the fact that investors are looking at options. This is what investors are saying. They ask questions, they seek alternatives, and whether that translates into a general lack of confidence that will be further fueled by more uncertainty, more unpredictability, a bit of a jump in the unknown on several fronts, not just monetary policy, not just even the economics, but beyond that, in terms of security at large, for instance, I think remains to be seen. It's not going to happen just like that overnight. It never did historically. There is no reason it should now, but there is clearly something that has been broken, and whether it is fixable or whether it is going to continue to be broken, I think the jury is out on that front.
Chair Powell, how do you think we'll look back on 2025?
So you're asking me how we're going to look back on 2025?
Yeah, how will historians look back on this year? Is it pivotal?
It's clearly an important year. There's a lot going on, with trade, and I think I'm hopeful that we'll look back on it as a year where we successfully challenged some significant economic changes, and our job is to make sure that is the case.
You get attacked by the president a lot on a personal basis. Does it make your job harder?
I'm very focused on just doing my job. I mean, there are things that matter are using our tools to achieve the goals that Congress has given us: maximum employment, price stability, financial stability, and that's what we focus on, 100%.
Hear, hear. Matt, what is the cloud indicator on your chart? It's just EMA lines. You can look it up. It's called SATY, but it's literally
Madame
just
Lagarde,
EMA lines.
If you were in the same position as Chair Powell, would you do anything differently?
I think I speak for myself, but I speak for all colleagues on the panel I think we would do exactly the same thing as our colleague Jay Powell does. The same thing. Yeah.
Ooh,
right?
getting saucy out there.
Governor Bailey, is the rest of the world decoupling from America but pulling tighter elsewhere? How do you see fragmentation happening?
Well, fragmentation, were it to happen, in my view, is bad for activity in the world economy. No question about that. I mean, if we reduce the openness of the world economy, that will be bad for activity in the world economy. Now, I temper that in one respect, because obviously we have learnt a lot about the robustness of supply chains over the last 5 years, and it is, of course, appropriate that there will be adjustments to that. But if we see a breakdown of the openness of the world economy sort of beyond that sort of resilience that we do see as needed, then that's bad for activity, it's bad for the world economy, and that I'm afraid is something that I think we need to be very clear. I've said a number of times, look, there are reasons why this is happening. It's not right to just go around saying, this is all wrong, there are no reasons why this is happening. What I think is very important is that we get back to a governance of the world economy where we can address these issues in the appropriate multilateral fora, and get to the question of what lies behind these issues, what's at the root of these issues, what exactly are the issues, and what do we do about them. And I can't emphasize this enough, that I think it's an obligation for all of us who are obviously very heavily involved in the governance of the world economy. We've all got very big responsibilities, to say that is our duty, to get back and to the process of saying, what's caused this and what do we do about it, and what do we deduce are the underlying issues and how do we address them? Because otherwise, say fragmenting the world economy is a bad outcome.
But what kind of fragmentation would it be? Is it, again, are you fearful that the world is splintering irrevocably, or is there a pool that's just moving?
Well, I think if it was a breakdown of trade in the world economy, obviously exactly how that would manifest itself would remain to be seen. But it would be running against a long period now where we've been building the resilience of trade in the world economy. We've been building openness. But as I said, I want to sort of temper that by saying, look, there are issues. I don't think we should say there are no issues. This is all made up. There are issues, and we need to address what they are and work them out. But we need to do that in the context of a commitment to a robust, open world economy.
Governor Rhee, as the only governor here representing a non-reserve currency country, how concerned are you about fragmentation of the global financial system and the risk at the end of the day that the US may be less willing to provide dollar liquidity in a future financial shock?
No. But I think I mentioned that we are quite vulnerable to the fragmentation. But in reality, as a small country, it's a pity that we can raise our voice, but in reality, we cannot change the course. So we have to probably take it as an environment and to adapt to it. What matters is we talk about economic fragmentation, but for a country like us, the most serious issue is combined with security. And for that issue, let me stop here because I don't want to go further. But as for the dollar liquidity support, as demonstrated during the global financial crisis and pandemic period, the standing dollar swap lines with 5 international financial centers and the 9 ad hoc temporary swap lines for the 9 non-reserve currencies. That was crucial in restoring the stability in the global world. And if another global dollar shortage hits, I believe that the U.S. Fed will extend their swap lines again, which is very important. And but one other problem for a country like us is we know that the U.S. provide ad hoc swap lines as long as there is a global dollar shortage. But issue is what happens if there is our own problem and there is no global dollar shortage. Our understanding is that Fed cannot extend the swap lines in that case, and we have to self-defense ourselves. That is why I think having a adequate, sufficient level of reserves is very important. And recently, thanks to the introduction of the FEMA repo facility by the Fed, actually these reserves become much more effective tool to defend ourselves.
Jay Powell, on fragmentation?
Well, I guess I'll just agree with what Chang Yang said, which is, or point out that nothing has changed relative to our swap lines. We still have the same authorities, and we're still prepared to use them in situations where it's within our legal authority.
30-minute Orbo breakout on the SPY.
So that is, we know, we're aware that
SPX is
that's a big
testing
contribution
6,200.
that we can and do, and will continue to make to global financial stability.
Governor Ueda, how much do you think about fragmentation and the impact this could have on Japan?
See, on the trade side, I think a lot about what will happen to Asia, even Asia excluding China. So this will depend on the relative tariff rates imposed on the region relative to China or relative to other countries. But there's a fairly strong intra-regional trade taking place during the last decade or two. Also, there's new countries like India growing at very high speed. So I hope there's a sufficiently resilient domestic demand in the region to keep the energy of the region alive. On the financial side, I don't have much to add to what other people have said.
NASDAQ just got its Orbo breakout as well.
To keep trying a multi-layered approach to things like swap lines. We have Chenmai initiatives in Asia. Doing something similar or continuing to do something similar would be important.
Madame Lagarde, you've often spoken about the role that Europe could take in a fragmented world. How do you see that developing in what kind of time frame?
Well, I think Europe has witnessed in the last 4 years, in particular, well, since 2022 in particular, the last 3 years, major challenges to its way of doing business, to the assumptions that it has made about security, about supply, about destination. Whether you look at what the horrible Russian invasion of Ukraine has precipitated, and how that has impaired the sentiment of security that we in Europe had, and the sentiment that we could, forever rely on the protection of others, that has been impaired significantly. When you look at the energy supply on which some of the European countries in particular, but most of us, have relied upon, namely access to reasonably cheap oil and gas supply from Russia, that has been impaired significantly, and we had to find the resources to respond to that. And whether you look at the business model of some countries where destination was inevitably China in the main, that has already been challenged as a result of the fragmentation that is not just a risk, but which has happened. If you combine that with the technology risk that we could all be under, either because of political determination or because of shortage of supply, whether it's on the front of microchips or rare earth, I think we are in a situation where many of the assumptions have been shaken up, and where we collectively are on the cusp of, I hope, this is my hope, of better taking hold and control of our destiny by making significant structural efforts to be more independent, be more productive, be more autonomous in all these different dimensions. Is it going to happen overnight? Yet again, no. Because on some of those fronts, it takes time, it takes investment, it takes political determination, it takes momentum. And from a pure sort of, as president of the ECB, what we can do on the monetary front is to deliver on our mandate of providing price stability so that the fluidity of factors that is needed, both in terms of capital, in terms of labor, can rest assured that price stability will be within our remit under strict commitment to deliver on our target of 2% medium term. But yes, I think it's historically, I believe that in a few years' time, we will look at 25 or those latest 3 years as significant change in the way in which we conduct our life, our business, and develop Europe, and I hope for the better.
Chair Powell, last year in Sintra, you said that the US cannot run these kind of deficits in good economic times for very long. And then you also said we'll have to do better sooner, something sooner or later, and sooner will be better than later. How's it going?
So, of course, I probably preface that by saying that we don't comment on fiscal policy. That is the one thing that I have said, and my predecessors have also said, and that is the U.S. federal, fiscal path is not a sustainable one. The level of the debt is sustainable, but the path is not, and we need to address that sooner or later. Sooner is better than later. That's what I said last year. There's not a lot more I can say.
For everyone else, how much of a problem for the world are America's public finances? Governor Rhee?
We have to see what's going to happen. Yeah, but as I mentioned, we take it as environment, and we just adjust our policies.
Retest the 6,200.
I don't comment on our fiscal policy, let alone anybody else's.
Anyone else want to take that question? Last year, Governor Ueda, you spoke 2 years ago at this ECB conference. It was your first public appearance overseas after taking the current role in April 2023, and you talked about your surprise with the tight schedule of a central governor. Are you getting used to the schedule? Is it ramping up? Is it even more than when you started?
It's still very tight.
Is it tighter than before? How are you finding yourself after more than 2 years in the job?
It's as tight as 2 years ago.
So it hasn't changed?
Getting used to it a little bit, yes.
Governor, what's your biggest task for the rest of your term until 2028?
Well, as I was saying at the outset, headline inflation is above 2. Underlying inflation is below 2. I want both to converge to 2% by the time I leave my office.
I think you were also asked what keeps you awake at night in Washington in October, and you talked about the pace of rate hikes as one thing. Is it still the same, or do you have other things that you're worrying about?
Let's see. I didn't sleep well last night. There's a reason for this. Governor Yi was sitting next to me during dinner, and he told me that espresso contains less caffeine than coffee. So I immediately had a cup of espresso.
I meant the total amount of caffeine rather than caffeine per ounce, okay?
Anyway, this is a joke, but during these international meetings, I get chances to talk to my colleagues, get a lot of useful insights. So when I go to bed, I think about those and say to myself, maybe I should adjust our economic outlook, our policy strategy in response to these nice comments. And these keep me sometimes awake.
Why?
But,
options are holding. Tech is just getting sold.
To keep
look at that difference.
The trust in ourselves, which is a very foundational.
NASDAQ is getting sold, but the MAG 7 is holding.
To all of you, what keeps you awake at night, given all
what
the
a dive,
uncertainties
dude.
and the changing
what a
world?
freaking dive.
First of all, I can confirm what Kazuo just
Holy
said.
shit.
It did happen on occasions that
The
the
fuck
following
just
day,
happened?
after probably a difficult night, you came to see me and said, did you
We
really
just full
say
tripped it.
that
30-minute orbital
yesterday
breakout,
during the meeting?"
30-minute
And I knew
orbital
that you had been
breakdown.
Sort of ruminating.
You don't see
and
that
pondered
often.
What the consequences were. So it's the
What
truth.
the
It's not a
fuck?
joke. Yeah. What keeps me
what do you
awake?
worry?
The truth. By that I mean I'm getting more and more concerned about the role that artificial intelligence is going to play, about how distorted things can be presented, how public opinion can be manipulated, and having been a lawyer by background, where searching for the truth is one of the purposes that we hold as auxiliary of justice, I'm very concerned by what's happening at the moment and what kind of moral compass and the watchdog of the integrity of data, because we keep saying that we are data dependent, and we are, and we want to see, our projections and our assessment and the analysis anchored in empirical data and understanding of what's happening in the reality of the economy. And I do have this fear that things can be distorted, and that we can fall prey to that because it's incredibly easy and actually described now in some literature. That is of great concern to me. I mean, I sleep at night, but.
Chair Powell?
So I have a little more than 10 months left on my term as chair.
Order filled.
And all I want and all anybody at the Fed wants is to deliver an economy that has, price stability, maximum employment, financial stability. And what keeps me awake at night is how do we get that done? I want to hand over to my successor an economy in good shape. And so do all of my colleagues. That's all we ever want. So that's what keeps me awake at night is are we on a path to do that, and how do we get that done?
Do you plan to stay on as Fed governor after your chair term expires?
I have nothing for you on that today.
Governor Rhee, what keeps you up at night?
First, my apologies to Ueda-san, but to me,
Scores on the espresso will be settled.
one concern that I have is unique to our problem is a perception gap of the public due to very rapid structural changes. For example, a decade ago, our potential growth rate is around 3%, but now it's well below 2%. But people still think that we have to grow above 3% in normal times, and that actually expedite their demand for the more stimulus monetary policy and fiscal policy, while what we need is a structural reform. But on the other hand, if I keep on talking about structural reform, I don't know how far I can go on discussing this structural issue, because some people say that it's well above my mandate. But I think what is important for our country is not only the cyclical issue, but this, how to adapt to these structural changes. And that is a very difficult challenge.
Governor Bailey?
Well, I want to deliver inflation sustainably at target. As I keep saying to my colleagues, can you please stop thinking of all the shocks that we haven't had yet in my term that we might have. But today's, maybe I've been sleeping too well because I felt I needed something else to do, because today's a significant day because it's my first day as chair of the Financial Stability Board after taking over from Klaus's enormously distinguished leadership.
Jesus.
And so that
Something's
gives me a
going
whole
on
lot
in
of
tech.
vulnerabilities to think about and worry about when
The
when I have anything else to
NASDAQ.
do. But seriously,
Is it a
obviously
roll?
are issues in the financial system that we're very focused on.
No, they
and
wouldn't be
what we'll
rolling.
very focused on in terms of understanding the vulnerabilities of the situation we're in.
Governor Rhee, I also wanted to ask you actually about digital currencies.
Tech
because the Bank of
options,
Korea
NASDAQ.
put brakes on testing a central
Fucking
bank digital currency
smoked.
this week. Would you agree that it's more of a priority to find, I guess, the right regulation for the immediate challenge of stable coins than to develop a CBDC that no one may use?
That's a hot topic now in Korea. Surging in the dollar-denominated stable coins, especially recent passage of the Genius Act in the United States,
Yeah, that got
make
smashed.
many fintech
Holy
companies
shit,
and
folks.
advocates of the stable coins to ask the government to allow the non-bank institutions to participate, to issue the Korean won-denominated stable coins. As you mentioned, that we have been experimenting the tokenized deposit pilots with a commercial bank in our permission network. But I think given the surging demand for allowing non-bank financial institutions to issue stablecoins in public domain, make us a little bit, I have to talk with the government agencies because it's well beyond the Bank of Korea's mandate. From our perspective, what we are worrying about is that if we allow the unregulated one-denominated stable coin, it will definitely expedite the exchange into dollar-denominated coins and undermine our capital flow management regulation. We don't know whether the critic says that the new technology in blockchain can identify the irregular transactions, do the know your customer rule kind of regulation very well, and then even identify the irregular, strange transaction very easily. But we're not so sure.
Order filled.
And also there's a narrow banking issue, many other issues.
Tech is getting smashed right now, but it's not the Mag 7, it's the rest of the index.
Kind of regulations.
Now
Andrew
it's starting to look pretty brutal.
I mean, it's an important
you
subject.
can
It's
see
one
it
of the
here.
subjects that we will have on the agenda for the FSB, no question about that. You see, the thing that I think is about stablecoins is that, and here I distinguish them from something like Bitcoin, is that they purport to be money. They purport to have the medium of exchange, function of money. And therefore, they do have to meet the test of money. We've talked a lot about this. We've talked a lot about trust in money, about the so-called singleness of money, which is really all about them being assured to hold their nominal value. And for me, this is going to be the critical test as to what structure and design comes out of all this work that meets that critical test. Because if they don't, then I don't think we can be content with them. And if they're purporting to be money but don't actually meet the test of money.
Christine Lagarde?
I have a relatively strong view on that point, if you don't mind, because I think that we are falling prey to some confusion between money, means of payment, and payment infrastructure. And that is accelerated or emphasized as a result of the technology that are being used, and some technologies in particular. And I regard money as a public good, and ourselves as the public servants in charge of securing and protecting that public good. My fear is that blurring of the lines that I mentioned earlier are likely to lead to a privatization of money. And I don't think that this is the purpose for which we've been appointed to do the job that we have, nor is it good for this public good that is money. I think it risks undermining our capacity to conduct monetary policy, and I think it risks weakening the sovereignty of those countries or those regions which inadvertently become subject of the use of that means of payment infrastructure / alleged money. And we should not only just consider it, but determine what our policy should be about it if we mean what we say and we protect what we have to protect. Thank you.
Chirpa, I actually have a question. Do you fully support the recent proposal driven by the Vice Chair for Supervision, Michelle Bowman, on rolling back capital rules? Would that actually meaningfully improve liquidity in the Treasury market?
I do fully support what we in fact voted for, what we put out for comment, which is sort of putting the leverage ratio back where it should be, which is a backstop to risk-based capital. And so yes to that question. Let me say on stable coins, if I can.
Yeah.
I do share the concerns that you hear here, but I also think it's a positive step that we don't have a regulatory framework for these now.
Looking for this to be the bottom of the day.
Congress to work with.
We're seeing whatever that cell program was, like, finally
to create such a thing. Now it looks like we're well on the way to creating a framework, which I think is something we need. If we're going to have stable coins, and apparently we need to have a federal and state level regulatory framework, which I think we're making progress towards having.
We only have a couple of minutes left, so many of you have plenty of time left in office. Others will leave sooner. Knowing what you know today, Governor Ueda, if you already had to offer some advice to your successor, whoever that may be, what would it be?
I don't know. If I finish I finish in 2.5 years or so, maybe, as I said, inflation would be at 2%, but I will not have finished reducing our balance sheets to appropriate levels. So I would say to my successor, take great care in proceeding with further reduction of the balance sheet, size of the balance sheet.
I like that. Christine Lagarde?
I don't think I would say anything, because I remember my predecessor telling me that it would be a walk in the park. So I'd say nothing. But I would share the ambition of Jay Powell. I would want to hand over, job as well done as possible and results achieved as much as possible.
So Quickly, we're trying to deliver macro stability, financial stability, economic stability for the benefit of all the people. If we're going to do that successfully, we need to do it in a completely non-political way, which means we don't take sides, we don't play one side against the other, we stay out of issues that are really not our bailiwick, and we just focus on those things. Really, we're trying to have it be so that the public lives their best economic lives, and so elected policymakers can make the really important decisions in a stable environment. And so that's how I think about it.
Governor Rhee?
I can say something, but I don't know whether my successor will take it
Order
seriously.
filled.
But given that I mentioned structural issues, I hope that the Bank of Korea continue to
Something
raise
is going
goals
on
outside of just
specifically
monetary
in
policy
NASDAQ
for general
options.
economic issues.
And Governor Bailey?
What the fuck is this?
So we're exercising real power. Many people think we are not humble. Be humble.
Look at all these
I'll say
puts.
this, if you want an illustration of this, Christine and I were both in Ukraine the week before last.
It's like very,
We
very
think we have
tech
it difficult.
specific. Very tech
Spend
specific.
time with the Central Bank of Ukraine. Nothing.
Holy shit, folks.
Thank you so much to everyone for a wonderful panel. Thank you.
All right, we're done with that. For whatever reason, didn't do enough to, like, tech is just getting. Did I miss a piece of news at past 10:20? Was there something that happened past 10:20 a.m. about not long ago? Fed's Powell, I think we need a stablecoin framework, and we are making progress. I fully support putting leverage ratio back as a backstop. Mexico's President Sheinbaum discussions with the U.S. on full cattle exports to continue. Senators call to the Senate floor as tax bill nears a final vote. Is it because of the bill, the big, beautiful bill? I mean, something in tech is just getting demolished today. Oh, man. Are you guys seeing any, like, specific news driving this? Or is it just traders are trading? Are traders just trading? What in the world is happening? Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that, like, makes the most sense to explain this. I think this is, like, literally just whatever. People are placing their trades and one thing's leading to another, but it's been a while since we've seen such a disparity. Like the SPY seemingly holding up fine, not really doing anything, while the Q's just, I mean, from this peak here, the SPY from that peak to this point is down 0.18, while the Q's are down 0.46. They've more than doubled. Whoa. Someone is not happy. But yet, well, we're kind of seeing it now in the Mag 7. It seemed to, for a bit there, be outside of the world of the Mag 7 that people were being pissy about. But now even the SPY, the Delta did just hit a fresh low. What a weird change of events. Tesla's turning a little bit here. Apple's holding up. Palantir's getting smashed. Avago's getting smashed. Netflix getting hit. Meta's getting hit. Nvidia. Holy. Okay, right here. Something happened with Nvidia right around 10:20. Why? All right, we found the culprit. What the fuck happened to Nvidia? I mean, the options have been against it all day, but something with price on Nvidia, like you could see right here, just not really moving much today, and then boom. Was there news on Nvidia? NVDA. Is it semiconductors as a whole, maybe? Let's Avago. It might be the semiconductor space. So maybe something with like the trade deals, but starting at 1020, semiconductors, Avago got hit, Nvidia got hit. I mean, we could just look at SMH, yeah. It's the semiconductor space starting at 1020 just started to puke. Nvidia stock was falling Tuesday, putting the AI chip maker recent winning streak in jeopardy as fears of the impact of U.S. export curbs to China. But we already knew about the China thing. That's not. European capitals have hardened their position on trade talks with Trump, insisting U.S. drops its tariffs on the EU immediately as part of the framework deal before the looming deal on July 9th. But that even came out earlier. Like, something got tilted at 1020 related to semiconductors. U.S. concerns of AI chip export restrictions to China. I mean, but we've been hearing that for like a while now. Like, that's not, I see you guys have been commenting that, but literally, I feel like we've been talking about that every other week. It feels like that comes back. We've been talking about that literally since Biden as president. Oh, something's up with semis. Yeah, the Delta. I mean, Nvidia just getting fucking smashed there. Broadcom smashed. Meta was fine. Everything just started to turn at 1020. Well, MicroStrategy hit from out of the gate. Netflix getting hit. Fuck me sideways, dude. This turn. Tesla trying to hold, oddly enough. Wow. The NASDAQ keeps going. It's even now dragging the spine up with the 5-minute potentially breaking down, the 10-minute potentially breaking down, the 30-minute going back in the bearish territory. 5-minute red, 10-minute red, 30-minute red. Ugh. Gonna be an ugly fucking day. Ugly day. I think it's Tim finally liquidating some assets to cover his betting debt with you. I would hope so. Fucking that Tim dude still owes me money. Jeez. Ugh. Straight up vomit. The only green thing I'm seeing is Apple. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, we're still in this choppy zone, whatever. Meta. Where's Nvidia? Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green days in a row. Unless we have a miraculous recovery from here, that might be all she wrote. That might be all she wrote. Jesus. The end of a streak. Dude, every time we come back, the Delta's just getting worse and worse. Holy shit. Now the Mag 7, yeah. Quite a bit of put buying, quite a bit of call selling. Just we're removing positive Delta, we're adding negative Delta, and it's seemingly accelerating. It's just a question of when the hell is it going to stop? Obviously, we need to find a bottom somewhere. Where the fuck is it? I thought it was going to be here at 10:30 because we were at the low from the previous trading session. We saw green. Like, I liked that. Obviously, I took that trade and got fucking nailed. I didn't expect it. Just keeps going, and it's so tech specific. The SPY is not really giving a shit about it. Nuts. IWM small cap having a great day. Well, it's red. I wouldn't call it a great day. That's an interesting definition of great. It's not as red as tech. Not as red as tech. Where the hell is this bottom gonna be? Holy crap, dude. Look at that. Complete change of tune. Rip until 1020. Nope. Just a hardcore pivot. Hardcore pivot. Even on the SPY. pretty solid pump up until about 1020. Wrong. What a pivot. What a pivot. Well, we're going to see how this all looks by the end of the day. You think we're going to get a V-shaped recovery? You think we're going to get a Nike swoosh recovery? Or you think we're going to get no recovery whatsoever? Is it really because of this bill stuff? What do we have here from Trump?
Good morning. We're going out to Alligator Alcatraz. It's the East Coast version, and it should be very exciting, very good. Worked very hard on it with Ron and everybody, and I think it's going to be great. And then I'll be back here fighting for the bill, and I hear it's going okay. We'll move it along. But we'll be back here pretty early.
What the fuck is Alligator Alcatraz? Are there... Is it something? I'm going to try to find C-SPAN or something like that. Oh, wait. Senate votes. Oh, here we go. This is exactly what I was looking for. Oh, they're not doing shit. Is that lady purple? Is that a Smurf? Enhance. 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 No more enhancing allowed. I think we have a Smurf in the Senate. We might need to fact check me on that, but I think they lit a Smurf into the Senate. Dude, they're not. These guys as bored as could possibly be. Fucking Father Time over here is just trying to stay alive. This guy's standing like a cool guy. What are we doing, folks? Tesla giving some of that back, dude. This is... Something's up. They will pay more to feed the alligators than the... What is Alligator Alcatraz? Smurfs are blue. Yeah, I mean, she was Smurf-esque. It's kind of like a purple hue, though. I know that Smurfs are blue, but I'm commenting. It was like the closest cartoon I could think of. I don't know. Is there a major purple-based cartoon? And, like, you could argue to... I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but she has some coloration going on. It's either blue or purple. Maybe a mix of the two. Somewhere, maybe an indigo, if you will. Alligator Alley is a new migrant shelter in Florida. Holding jail in the Everglades. They're putting a legit, what the fuck, dude? These queues, what the fuck is happening here? It's an illegal immigrant detainment facility? Holy crap. Well, folks, this is turning shitty. Real quick. When is this gonna... Can you guys stop the selling, please? To all the billionaires in chat who are just smashing the NASDAQ. All right, you proved your point. Congratulations. How about you get it to bounce back now? How about you guys stop with the charades and start buying? I kind of want to look up by the way, these people are still doing nothing. I want to see what we can find out about Alligator Alcatraz. What a name. What a branding opportunity. Alligator Auschwitz is trending. Just so everyone knows. Everyone's just reposting the clip of him going to Alligator Alcatraz. All right, here's what Twitter has found. I don't think anyone realizes how impressive Alligator Alcatraz is. The state of Florida built this 3,000-bed federal prison in 8 days. The director tells me It could have been done in 72 hours were it not for some regulatory holdups. Now all the state needs is DOJ approval to deputize the National Guard as deportation judges, and this will become the most efficient deportation center in American history. I mean, yeah, it would only take 72 hours to set this up. It's a bunch of fucking bunk beds and fencing. Well, I guess you guys were not screwing with me. It is, in fact, Alligator Alcatraz.
But the red states, Republican-run states...
All right, Trump is now live.
Those states don't do very well at security and policing, unfortunately. What would you say, Chris?
You know, I would say that exactly right. The governor here has been fantastic in forming this partnership with the Department of Homeland Security. We were looking at different contracts with different vendors and thought, why not go straight to our governors and ask them to help us solve this problem? Florida was unique in what they presented to us, and I would ask every other governor to do the exact same thing. This is unique because we can hold individuals here, they can have their hearings, get due process, and then immediately be flown back home to their home countries. And their home countries are welcoming them. They're setting up loans for houses, they've got food assistance, they're helping to facilitate welcoming them home. I just got home from Panama, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, and they're all excited about getting their individuals back home from the United States. So
and there is a lot of self-deporting. That's
there
one
is.
thing I was actually surprised, but a lot of self-deporting. I flew over the Everglades. We did a little circle. I said, let me see. That's a big piece of land. I think it's 25 minutes to fly around. Is there potential for enlargement or additional facilities out here?
There may be. I mean, I think what we're doing is, because this is an important part of Florida, we're using the existing footprint of this airport. So when you guys go over there, you'll see all the beds, the medical, the galley, everything is on the concrete. We're not using any of the other stuff. Now, as you'll see, there's a lot of concrete, so there very well may be. I know Secretary Noem and her team have said as soon as the president departs, we'll be open to start receiving folks. And so we'll see what the tempo is. We do have the 2000 in Northeast Florida that will open very soon. So it is possible to do. One of the things I think that is exciting about this is we're offering up our National Guard and other folks in Florida to be deputized to be immigration judges. We're working with the Department of Justice for the approvals. I'm sure Pam will approve. But then I'll have a National Guard judge advocate here. Someone has a notice to appear. Biden would tell them to come back in 3 years and appear. Now you'll be able to appear in like a day or two, so they're not going to be detained, hopefully, for all that long. We'll have people here in this facility that can make, it's a bureaucracy. The president's got to deal with the bureaucracy. Now, that Supreme Court ruling was good because that's going to allow him to be able to exercise Article 2 the way founders intended, but you still have bureaucracy. So we want to cut through that so that we have an efficient operation between Florida and DHS to get the removal of these illegals done.
Are you prioritizing going after the worst of the worst, or are you now arresting anyone who is here?
We're doing the worst of the worst always first.
yes.
And I think it's great government, what we've done. And nobody can ever forget what this group of people, Biden or whoever it was, because it probably wasn't even Biden. I don't think he knew what the hell he was doing. But Biden, whoever it was, what this group of people, a small group that circled the Resolute desk, what they did to this country. Think of it, what your time, all the time you have to waste doing this. It's an unforced error. We had nothing. We had no problem with this. There was never anything like
Come on, ABC, or what's this? The Telegraph. Hello. I think their camera's cut out. Well, I was gonna say maybe we were bottoming, but doesn't look so
You
good.
suggested putting alligators in the Rio Grande to prevent crossings in Texas. Is this a dream come true for you, sir?
Well, I was thinking about that, I must say. It was meant more as a joke, but the more I thought of it, the more I liked it, if you want to know the truth. And they were serious. They were actually crocodiles. They were crocodiles from Africa. They are a step beyond. But no, that was really meant as a joke, but a lot of people liked it. And a lot of people think we should do it, frankly.
The Senate, it appears, is about to vote on
I
your
hear
big,
we're
beautiful
doing
bill.
well, Ron. I hear we're doing well.
Are you confident this can get
I
done
don't
by
know
the 4th of
confident.
July?
What does confident mean when you're like when you have one vote and you have 100 people going to vote. I think so. I think it's going to be the greatest bill ever passed, even for you as an example. Tremendous amount of Homeland Security money. Tremendous amount. It's going to keep the border secure because, we have them secure now, but we need to build more wall. I built almost 600 miles of wall. We need more wall. And all of that's covered in this bill. This bill is amazing for everybody. It's an amazing bill for Florida, too. Really great for Florida.
Are there concerns about the Medicaid cuts, though, Mr.
No,
President?
we're not going to be playing with Medicaid.
Only
waste, fraud, and abuse.
Americans could lose their
the
coverage.
Democrats have it wrong. Yeah, waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, if you look at what's gone on, we've gone way back. We take care of Medicaid. We take care of Medicare. They will blow Medicare and Medicaid because they have no idea what they're doing. Just like they don't have any idea what they did on the border, they have no idea. Medicaid is in big trouble with the Democrats.
So you can promise anyone who loses their health care coverage that is because of waste, fraud, and abuse?
Waste, fraud, only waste, fraud, and abuse, which is what everybody
Mr.
wants.
President, Russia has about 50,000 troops stationed outside of Sumy in Ukraine. What will you do if Russia authorizes an offensive?
We'll see what happens. I'm watching it very closely.
Mr. President? About Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit next week, what are you hoping to get out of that? And do you think there'll be any progress?
Well, it's going to be a very quick celebration. We had a great hit. It was a obliteration. Okay, now it turns out it was an obliteration. They demeaned CNN mostly and the New York Times, fake New York Times. They demeaned these great soldiers. They went over there 17 hours flying, and they hit bullseye after bullseye after bullseye. It all blew up. Everybody saw it. Then they get back and CNN
All right,
said, well,
Spy
they did
is
okay,
catching a
but
bid once
maybe it
again
wasn't-
here.
let me tell you, it was
Starting to work
beyond
its way back up.
They
Mag
nobody
7's
could even get
flat.
down there. The tunnels are
Nasdaq's
busted.
flat.
Everything fell into
So
the well.
maybe it
was
has a
total and
shot.
complete obliteration, and
But
we
I
should
am
celebrate
seeing
these
some
heroes.
Delta
And what I'm
pick up.
doing is I'm bringing
Puts are
them,
being
Ron.
closed.
We're bringing them to
More so, puts
Florida
are being
or to the
closed and
White
calls
House.
being
I
opened.
gave them their choice. I think they're going to take the White House.
Probably.
I shouldn't tell you this.
Mr. President, there's going to be a new bill called Make American Elections Great Again.
I love it.
Forcing the U.S. Census Bureau to redo the census to actually get an account of how many Americans with proof of citizenship are in our area, in our country, redistricting some of the House districts. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll speak for both of us. We love it. Okay, you're going to like this one. I know all about it. We want to bring our elections back. The election in 2020 was rigged, millions and millions of votes. It had to do with COVID and a lot of things, but it really had to do with their crooked people. The Democrats are very good at cheating on elections. And that's why I said too big to rig. They tried this one too, but after about 9:02, they gave up.
Too
many
big to
votes.
rig.
Too big to rig. Ron would love it. I would love it. Christie would love it. That's what they have to do. They have to bring it back. And we have to look, Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California would lose like 5 seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least 1 seat. We only got 1 seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had 1 seat in that? We should have had at least 2. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives in the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
Mr. President,
I think it's going to do very well. A lot of people, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's captivated the country. Everybody wants it. It's going to get in, it's going to pass, and we're going to be very happy.
Elon Musk is ripping into this bill again. Are you concerned that Republicans are going to be swayed by Musk and his money?
No, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is Doge is going to look at Musk. And if Doge looks at Musk, we're going to save a fortune. Thank you very much, everybody.
Jesus.
I don't think you should be playing that game with me.
Mr. President, July 9th.
Yeah. Not sure I'd be buying the dip on Tesla quite yet. They're still in the middle of fighting. Jesus. All right, that's donezo. That is donezo. Well, all I can tell you, folks, is we had a great start around 10:20 in the morning. Everything turned, led to the downside by semiconductors, and we're now wondering if this 20 to 25 minutes of selling is finally over. The SPY is trying to base. I could show you right here in options. See, like we're attempting to throw in a base, but as of the moment, we don't see a similar base-esque structure in the Mag 7 or really in tech as a whole. So kind of waiting. Even there, we just pushed again. So people are trying to step in on the S&P 500 side of things, but the Nasdaq is just getting destroyed right now. So it'll be interesting to see if and when it finds a bottom and what that bottom is based off of. And from there, do we get the V shape? Do we get the Nike swoosh? Or are we actually just going to keep grinding down and down and down all day? But this one's, Jesus. Maybe turn of the hour. Maybe all this is just going to stop at 11. Just be careful. The SPY clearly rejected at the red to green move. This is why you have to pay attention to that red to green move. This time around, it pretty much did align with 6,200. So rejection within this 5-point region. We're now back into the chop on the S&P 500. But man, I cannot get over how much that Nasdaq is just getting clapped right now. So I guess the main message here is be careful. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, because this is getting a little bit crazy here. So don't get caught up in the midday chop. If anything, at this point, we're getting closer and closer to lunch. This might be the move to either walk away or to wait for just like the afternoon actual trades rather than just whatever this choppy bullshit is. But it doesn't necessarily seem to be like specifically news driven, as in like if there's like one piece of hardcore news. So if anything, like this was just seemingly straight up trades. People bought puts, sold calls. We got hit. There might be some murmurs of what's going on with China, but to me, that's nothing really new. So I think we're just seeing whatever straight up like market influences. So just be careful with that. Obviously, as always, respect your risk. Trade with whatever the trend is of the time frame that you care about. And basically, the name of the game is survive until the next day. But I am happy to report I survived day 2 of the trading challenge, made another 300. So day 1 went well, day 2 went well. It was a little sketchy for a couple minutes there today, but hey, it worked out nicely. So I'm excited to come back for day 3 mañana. So we'll do an update video today. Then we'll stream again tomorrow. And then there's a half day on Thursday. And then the market is completely closed on Friday. So appreciate all the good vibes. Don't do anything silly. I'll catch you a little bit later today. Peace.